ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवाञ्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथन्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितां ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्यति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य अम्ने गौरत्विषये नमः। आनन्दलीलामय विग्रहाय हेमाङ्गदिव्या च विसुन्दराय तस्मै महाप्रेमरसप्रदाय श्रीचैतन्यचन्द्राय नमो नमस्ते। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा. So we'll start our discussion from Nectar of Instruction Upadeshamrita. In the first verse in our last session we have seen that what are the 6 urges that we need to control so that we can make progress in our spiritual life. And as Rupa Goswami says, the person who controls all these 6 urges, he can be able to make the whole world his disciples. In the next verse, which we are going to discuss now, that is Atyahara Prayashasya Prajalpo Niyamagraha Janasangasya Laulasya Shadbhir Bhakti Vinashyati. These are the 6 things that destroys our devotional service. So what are those? So he says atyahar means accumulating or eating more than required. That is excessive eating. Prayasa, that is endeavoring too much for material benefits. Then prajalpa, discussing or engaging others in the discussion of material things. Then niyama, agraha and agraha. There are 2 things in this particular word. Niyama agraha means people, they follow too much of spirituality but not for the progress of to make a progress in spiritual life but to attain material benefits. And there is a niyam agraha means not accepting the rules and regulation which has given in the scripture, rather than that thinking that devotion can be done anyway. So why to follow rules and regulation? It is the thing that should be hide out, and we should not expose in external way to others. Then the 5th one is Janasangaha, means associating with the people who are having uh, material desires and who are too materialistic about the material life. And the last one is Laulyam, greed. Greed for what? For getting aihik, means the material things. And in today's world, we can see most of the people, they are engaged in this. So we'll divide this purport into 2 parts. So there are, I think, around 23-24 paragraphs are there in which Prabhupada has given his own commentary on this particular verse. So in the first part, he speaks about the material nature and why we are here in this material world and what is the real purpose of human form of life. And what is the main basic principle that one need to follow that Prabhupada speaks about in this purport. Then he speaks about the three different energies of the Lord, how they work. So what are those and who comes under whom? Like Antaranga Shakti, Tathastha Shakti, and Bahiranga Shakti. So sometimes Tathastha Shakti, the Jiva, how he gets entangled in this material world or get covered by the external energy of the Lord. And how if someone takes shelter of the internal energy of the Lord, who is known as a Mahatma. So what are his qualities? That has explained by Prabhupada in this purport. And then he speaks about the qualities of Mahatma and qualities of Duratma. So in the qualities of Duratma, we have experience because we are surrounded by all those peoples, and Prabhupada explained about them. So let's start with this verse. Atyahara prayashasya prajalpo niyamagrah Janasangasya laulyam cha shadbhir bhakti vinashyati. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. So what are those activities? So first is atyahara, eating than necessary or collecting more funds than required. Second thing, prayashasya, or endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Third thing, talking unnecessary, that is prajalpa, about mundane subject matters. Fourth is niyama agraha, practicing the spiritual rules and regulations only for the sake of the following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Or rejecting the rules, that is niyam agraha, that is rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently of or whimsically, that swairachar, like my mind says, so I follow this. Yathomat tatovat, like that. And fifth one is asanga, janasanga, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And the sixth is being greedy for the mundane achievements. So Prabhupada, he starts his purport with, human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. So that's the goal of being a human being, Plain living and high thinking. Now people go totally different, Low thinking and they want to have a high living, which is difficult. Since all conditioned living beings are under the control of the Lord's third energy, this material world is designed so that one is obliged to work. Daiviyesha gunamayi mamamaya durattaya. Or all the living entities, they prakriti sthani karshan, get crushed near the under the influence of material nature. Because since all conditioned beings, they are controlled by this material nature. The Supreme Personality of a Godhead has a 3 primary energies or potencies. The first is called Antaranga Shakti, or the internal potency. The second is called the Tathastha Shakti, or the material nature. The third is called, material potency. The third is called Bahiranga Shakti or external potency. The third is called Bahiranga Shakti. The living entity constitutes the marginal potency, that is Tathastha Shakti, and they are situated between the internal and external potencies. Being subordinate as a eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of a Godhead, the Jivatmas or atomic living entities must remain under the control of either internal or external potency. When they are under the control of the internal potency, they display their natural constitutional activity, namely constant engagement in the devotional service of the Lord. And this is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, text number 13. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritimashritah bhajanti ananya manaso jnatva bhutadim avyayam. O son of Pratha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So here Prabhupada has explained about the three energies, how Jiva, being the marginal potency, either he has to get influenced by Antaranga Shakti or either by Bahyaranga Shakti. So either internal potency or external potency. One of those, And the person who takes shelter of internal energy of the Lord is called as a Mahatma. So Prabhupada describes further about the word Mahatma. The word Mahatma refers to those who are broad-minded, not cripple-minded. Cripple-minded persons always engaged in satisfying their senses, sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others through some ism like nationalism, humanitarianism, or altruism. They may reject personal sense gratification for this sense gratification of others, like the members of their family, community, or society, either national or international. Actually, all these activities are extended sense gratification from personal to communal to social. These activities may all be very good form from the material point of view, but they have a no spiritual value. The basis of such activity is sense gratification, either personal or extended. Only when a person gratifies the senses of the Supreme Lord can be called a Mahatma or a broad-minded person. So Prabhupada starts the purport with explanation of Mahatma, the word Mahatma. Mahatma means broad-minded, not cripple-minded. And at the last line of this paragraph, Prabhupada says, only when a person gratifies the senses of the Supreme Lord can be called a Mahatma or broad-minded person. Otherwise, people, they call Mahatma to whom? As we know, there is a great Mahatma whom they worship in India. They called him as a father of nation. But Prabhupada says these are cripple-minded people because they do it for their own or extended sense gratification. See, common men, when they read this, they may give their comments that, oh, what is this? These people are there speaking about against the nation and this and that. But ultimately, if you think or see through the Shastra, the things related with me, considering me as a body, and mind, which belongs to the body. So it may be your family, your society, your state, nation, all these things are related with the body. And if someone gets attached to that, then he is never considered as a Mahatma. He may be called as a social reformer or maybe a socialist, but not as a Mahatma. Because the definition of Mahatma is clearly explained. Mahatmanastu mampartha daivim prakritim ashrita. The person who has taken shelter of the internal potency of the Lord. An internal potency of the Lord is engaged in serving the Supreme Personality. So one who tries to gratify the Lord through his service, he is called as a Mahatma. Then Prabhupada further says, in the above quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita, the words Daivim Prakritim refers to the control of the internal potency or a pleasure potency, that is Alladini Shakti of the Supreme Personality of a Godhead. This pleasure potency is manifested as Srimati Radharani or her expansion, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. When the individual Jiva souls are under the control of the internal energy, their only engagement is the satisfaction of Krishna or Vishnu. This is the position of Mahatma. If one is not a Mahatma, he is Duratma or a cripple-minded person. Such a mentally crippled Duratmas are put under the control of the Lord's external potency, called as a Mahamaya. So Duratma is controlled by Mahamaya, external potency of the Lord, Bahiranga Shakti, and Mahatma is controlled by the internal potency of the Lord. Further, Prabhupada says, in all living entities within this material world are under the control of Mahamaya, whose business is to subject them to the influence of threefold miseries. So what are these threefold miseries? Because no one is free from miseries in this world at any point of a time, They are going through the three varieties of suffering in this world. So what are those? Prabhupada makes it clear here. He says, Adidaivika klesha, suffering caused by the demigods, such as droughts, earthquakes, and storms. Adi bhautika klesha, suffering caused by other living entities like insects or human beings. And adhyatmika klesha, suffering caused by one's own body and mind, such as a physical and mental infirmities. Daiva bhutatma hetava, the conditioned soul subjected to these three miseries by control of the external energy suffers various difficulties. So how to understand this? In which particular energy is controlling us? So it is clearly mentioned here. The person who is controlled by the internal potency, that is Antaranga Shakti of the Lord, is he who has constantly engaged himself in the service of the Lord. And the other one is Daiva Bhutatma Hetavaha, the person who is suffering in this world, either by Adi Daivika, either by Adi Bhautika, or either by Adi Adhyatmika. So one has to understand what is the main problem of our conditioned life. In the next part of the purport, Prabhupada says, the main problem confronting the conditioned soul is the repetition of birth, old age, disease, and death. That's the real problem. Someone is hungry, that's not the real problem, because he will get something to eat as per his destiny. Because Lord has given him a teeth, so definitely he will give him something to chew. That's not a big problem. Anna, Vastra, and Nivara. That's not the real problem of this material world. Because some people may say, oh, you people are foolish, you don't know, you are not practical. See, it's not that we have to work hard and then only we are going to get something to eat. See, we are not worked any time when we are in our mother's womb, but Lord provided us our food. So same way as Prahlad Maharaj says in Srimad Bhagavata that Deha yogina dehinam yadvad labhate sukhat yadvad labhate dukhat aprayatnatah sukhat. According to the Deha Yoga, the body that you have got it, you're going to get the either happiness or suffering. So whatever quota that you have, as explained in the first verse of Ishopanishad, that Ishavasimidam sarvantena tyaktena bunjita. Everything belongs to Lord, and you have your own quota, which is allotted for you by the Lord. You are going to get it. No one is going to snatch it away from you. So that's not the real problem of life, having no shelter or having like a home or having does not having a food or clothing. You are going to get it. But real problem of life that we need to understand, even the modern so-called societies like United Nations, they are working on a hunger-free world. That's not going to happen because some people they are destined to not to get to food. They are not going to get food. Even food is in front of them, still they will remain hungry. Like people, you can see when you work with the corporates, you people have a quite good experience about that. Because of the schedules of the meetings, even though you have food, you have everything, but still you remain hungry. What it means? It means deha yogena dehinam. According to the your allotted quota with this particular body, you are going to get it. So the real problem of life is birth, old age, death, and disease. These are the real problem. One need to work on this. And someone who has taken birth in this material world, they are going to have it. Prabhupada says here, in the material world, one has to work for the maintenance of the body and soul. But how can one perform such a work in a way that is favorable for execution of Krishna consciousness? I was hearing one of the lectures today. Atma Tattva Prabhupada, one of the Prabhupada disciples, he was narrating about this particular. He was saying that once Prabhupada in 70s when he was in India, somebody called him to their home for installing deities. So Prabhupada went and he gave many classes in Hindi there. And that time, I think it was in 75. So when that emergency was there in India, so they had different logos that time. Baat kam, kam jada. Speak less and work more. Prabhupada said it is nonsense. One should work less and speak more. But what he should speak about Krishna. So you should work less. That means don't endeavor more for your maintenance because that will be taken care. But you should speak more about Krishna. Execute devotional service for the pleasure of Krishna. That is most important. And here, and that's practical also. It's not tough. Everyone is engaging themselves in a rat race. They think that if we, like one of the person, he was saying that I was in a school and everybody told me that I should have a good ranks, then I will be able to make good money. Then he went to graduation, he got graduate, he finished his graduation. He said you should have a post graduation, then you will earn more money. Then he had a post graduation also. Then they said that you should go for post graduation or doctorate or other things. So he did that also. And then after doing all those things, when he looked at Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs and other people, he said they never had a big degrees and big academical educations. but still they are earning money in billions. So whatever I was taught and hammered in my brain by people, it's all not true. The real fact is that whatever your quota, you're going to get it. So don't put more endeavor on that. Put more endeavor on spiritual life. Because after getting all that money, if you don't have peace of mind, you will go to take shelter of some spiritual personality only. Then you should why you should why you should go ahead and take it right now? Why am not taking it right now? Why you have to wait for future? Huh? Prabhupada says here, everyone requires possessions such as of food grains, clothing, money, and other things necessary for maintenance of the body. But one should not collect more than necessary for this actual basic needs. If this natural principle is followed, there will be no difficulty in maintaining body. So this is what we really need to understand. We get entangled by the flow of the material nature. People think, oh, I will have a house with a 3,000 square feet area, or maybe 4 bedroom or 5 bedroom, that will give me happiness. Happiness does not come by having things in life, but happiness comes when you feel that from inside, and that happiness is Krishna consciousness. Susukham karatum abhyayam. When you take that Krishna consciousness in your heart, then that gives happiness. Jitatma prashantasya paramatma samahita. Person who has controlled his mind and engaged in the in Krishna service, then what happens? Paramatma samahita. He attains the Paramatma, and once he attains that, then evam prasanna manaso. He becomes prasanna. He always remains peaceful and have a beautiful smile on his face. And that's what we can see. All the great acharyas, when you look at them, they have always that beautiful smile on their face because they are prasanna. Whatever they have, they are happy with that. Why? Because they are having that real peace in their heart. Further, Prabhupada says here, according to nature's arrangement, living entities lower on the evolutionary scale do not eat or collect more than necessary. Now he's speaking about the animal kingdom. Consequently, in the animal kingdom, there is a generally no economic problem or scarcity for necessity. You never see that the lion, the tiger, and deers, they are coming out of forest and protesting against they are not having a food. Have you seen that? Is there any scarcity for them? No. Robert gives example here. If you put a bag of grains on the road or in a public place, bird will come to eat a few grains and go away. But human being, because have a greed in their heart, they are groomed up in that way through this Machiavellian system of education. They will come, they will have it, and they will take the whole bag. He will eat all his stomach, and then he will carry the rest of the things in his storage. So according to the scriptures, this collecting of more than necessary is called atyaha, which is prohibited for spiritual life. Now the entire world is suffering because of it. Collection. Just collect. Some people, they just collect, they never use it because I think it's like a 2-3 decades back in Bombay, they found one beggar. He was died on the road. So the municipal people came, they lift his body and put it into that dead body carrier. And when they tried to take away all his beddings, They saw that guy, that beggar, was sleeping on the bed of notes. All bills were there around, 100 rupees, 500 rupees, 20 rupees, 50 rupees. He was lying on that. He had so much of money, but he never enjoyed. That is called atyahara. So Prabhupada says here, collecting and eating more than necessary also causes prayasa, or unnecessary endeavor. By God's arrangement, anyone in any part of the world can live very peacefully if he has some land and a milk cow. There is no need for man to move from one place to another to earn a livelihood. For one can produce food grains locally and get milk from a cow. That can solve all economic problems. Fortunately, man has been given higher intelligence for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness or the understanding of God. One's relationship with Him and the ultimate goal of life, love of God. Unfortunately, so called civilized man, not caring for God realization, utilizes his intelligence for getting more than necessary and simply eat to satisfy the tongue. So this is what prayasa. If you do atyahar, to do that atyahar, you need to do prayasa, endeavor more to have that atyahar. And that's why in the first verse itself it says you need to control the urges of mind, urges of tongue, because those are the things that really push you in this material existence. Further, Prabhupada says, by God's arrangement, there is a sufficient scope for the production of milk and grains for human being all over the world. But instead of using his higher intelligence to cultivate God consciousness, so-called intelligent men misuses their intelligence to produce many unnecessary and unwanted things. Thus, factories, slaughterhouses, brothels, and liquor shops are opened. If people are advised not to collect too many goods, eat too much, or work unnecessarily to possess artificial amenities, they think they are being advised to return to a primitive way of life. Generally, people do not like to accept plain living and high thinking. That is their unfortunate position. So here very clearly explain, if you are really mature and really ponder upon this thought, then you will understand that what are the big mistakes that we are doing in our life, how we are wasting our human form of a life in endeavoring too much for the things which are not going to give real happiness. That's why Lord, when he starts giving teachings of Bhagavad Gita to Arjun, he says that ashochananva shochastam prajnavadancha gate shokona kartavya bhavisham naiva chintayat. This is from Niti Shastra. That people, they lament for the past and they're worried about the future, and they do it in the present, so they never live in the present. So present is moment to enjoy that particular moment of your life, that they miss it. Why? Because they lament for the past and they think about the future, but they ruin their present. So one who is Krishna conscious, an intelligent human being, he will not think about those things. So do you have any question about this or any input from your side or your understanding? You are welcome. Ram Krishna Pro.
No, no, Prabhuji.
No?
It's okay.
Okay. So the next para, Prabhupada says, human life is meant for God realization, and the human being is given higher intelligence for this purpose. Those who believe that this higher intelligence is meant to attain a higher state should follow the instructions of Vedic literatures. By taking such instructions from higher authorities, one can actually become situated in perfect knowledge and give real meaning to life. So we need to find this real meaning to life, because human form is meant for that. And then Prabhupada quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, in the first canto, second chapter, text number 9, Sutta Goswami describes the proper human dharma or human dharma in this way, Manusha dharma. Dharmasya hi apavargasya nartho arthaya akalpate narthasya dharma ekantasya kamo labhaya smataha. All occupational engagements that we called as a dharma are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Dharmasya hi apavargasya. Dharma is meant to take you apavarga. Pavarga means this material world. Human form of life is meant for liberation, getting rid of this pavarga, where there is a parishrama, where there is a bhaya, where there is a bondage, where there is a death. So one has this human form of a life to get rid of this pavarga. That's why he says here, dharmasya hi apavargasya na artho arthaya upakalpayet. It is not meant for material cultivation. The real purpose of life is to work upon getting liberated from this janma mrityu jara vyadhi. The first step in a human civilization consists of occupational engagements performed according to these scriptural injunctions. The higher intelligence of a human being should be trained to understand basic dharma. In human society, there are various religious conceptions characterized as a Hindu, Christian, Hebrew, Mohammedan, Buddhist, and so on. For without religion, human society is no better than animal society. See, it's very important thing. And let's continue in our next session. What he speaks about dharma. Okay? Hare Krishna.